Okay, hello everyone, and thank you for attending today. We are starting the In the Spotlight webinar series, and I'm Louise Cairns, and I'm Online Project Manager here in IT Sligo for iNOTE and the Higher Ed for All projects. Just to give you a bit of background for Paul starts, the iNOTE project is a project that is being done with LYIT and GMIT. It's a HEA project, and we are working on Work Package 3, which is building digital capacity for flexible learning delivery for the West and Northwest of Ireland. We base this work package on the My Support Journey we have for students. It's a framework that looks at the supports they need before they begin, when they're in, and when they move on. We do this through initiatives that we create ourselves, and plus we also link up with other departments and the other two colleges within the project. The other one then I'm going to introduce you to is the Higher Ed for All. So this is a new project again, and it's about full-time online CAO courses. So it's a pilot that has been set up to see if it is a viable teaching and learning model for students. And it's been set up in partnership with DFI, Family Carers Ireland, Mayo Sligo ETB and Donegal ETB. So with this one, we currently have two courses on the CAO, the Health and Medical Information Science and the Writing and Literature programme as well. So that's all I have for the moment, and I'm going to hand you over now to Paul Press, and Paul Press is going to speak about Virtual Labs, a project he's been working on for over a year or so.
Thank you, Louise. I'll just share my screen.
Okay.
There we go. Just confirm there you can see my presentation.
Yep, I can.
Thank you. Right. Yes, my name is Paul Press. I'm an instructional designer. I was taken on by IT Sligo in January of this year. So I sort of started during the pandemic, and sort of came into quite an exciting role. And I think this slide kind of shows really the state of the world at that time, if nothing else, the state of my mind at that time. But really, this is what myself and Brian Mulligan thrashed out as being some planned outcomes and sort of progress for the project. So the whole role of the Virtual Labs project sort of falls into two categories, really. At the time when we started back in January, the pandemic was kind of the major issue. Lecturers moving labs online. A lot of lecturers had pushed labs back in the hope that they'd be able to have face-to-face labs. And so the first real section of what I was doing was responding to requests for support in bringing labs online. So the aim really initially was to contact lecturers, provide a request system for assistance, and that's across Letterkenny, GMIT, and also IT Sligo. And we'll sort of look at how that went there. The longer term aspect is kind of making sure that we provide virtual labs, online labs, as an ongoing process, going into providing possibly the best online learning in the whole of Ireland. So the online labs are sort of quite a big part of that. And so one task was to produce a database of labs that lecturers could then search, find solutions to problems, and also produce some content with the hope of maybe producing a lot more content in the future. And so basically that's what we're going to go through today. So the assistance request, this went out back in sort of January, February time to all institutions, and we got a number of responses, lecturers who wanted support with various labs. Initially, our aim was to support STEM lecturers, so science, engineering lecturers. But we were actually quite surprised at the responses we got from all kinds of different areas of learning, including things like archaeology and cookery and that kind of thing. So we found that actually a lot more people wanted assistance with online work than we kind of anticipated. So the assistance were kind of taken up much more by IT Sligo, quite a bit by GMIT, a little bit by Letterkenny. I don't necessarily know the reasons behind that. The information went out to all, but I do know that Letterkenny actually has a couple of people in similar roles to mine already in place, and I'm sure they were already doing a good job up there. The solutions that we provided to lecturers wanting support with virtual labs came into a number of different categories. Some were just clarification, support, help, advice. Some were networking issues. Some were videos. Some didn't reply when I got back to them. Quite a lot were to do with wanting simulation, so simulated labs online. And that kind of leads into what I'm going to go through later, which is developing our own simulations. One of the other tasks I was asked to do was to produce a database of solutions. And it's currently got about 1,920 solutions in there, keeps growing every day. And these are a range of either virtual online labs or videos or just links to resources. It's built on the work that was originally done by Helen Reynolds, who's a physics teacher at the Gregory School, Arizona, so I can't take full credit for it. But what I have gone on to do with it is to produce a search engine, which is a web-based search engine that anybody could have access to. And this allows us to search for any kind of remote lab that we might want. So once this loads up, so I might want the subject of physics and the topic of diffusion. I could put other keywords in there and I can search through. And so it's pulled back one record of one out of the 1,920. This is actually a YouTube video about diffusion, but I can click on this link and it's going to take me straight there. So any lecturer can search that and get any labs that I have already available in there. As well as our own list, there's a couple of other websites that are searchable. So if I want to find more physics diffusion labs, I can automatically search on Merlot with the same search criteria. So that's there, that's available for people to use. And hopefully that's going to make lives a little bit easier moving forward. And aside from that, we also started looking at developing some of our own simulations. We're sort of very much invested in two providers of simulations. We have Labster and we have Learning Science. And I know Paul Walsh did a lot of work with this originally to set these up. They're quite expensive and they do have some drawbacks in terms of flexibility and whether they sort of offer what we want. We can't tailor them to our needs or anything like that. So we went down the route of producing some of our own virtual labs for that reason. And so here's a sort of couple of examples. These are web-based. So again, they're kind of accessible to anybody. So here we have a typical physics lab where we might investigate some properties of a mass on a platform there. raise the platform, we can put sensors on there, we can gather data, we can set the experiment running, stop the data, we can download that data and actually analyze it offline as well if we want. So this allows sort of full flexibility. It kind of looks like a lab, it feels like a lab, but ultimately it's sort of there for inquiry sort of based. There's no specific route through that lab as such. This one here, however, sorry, I've lost that link. This one was a demonstration put together for the engineering department, so we could see how basically how an engine works. And so we can look at the internal workings. Around it. And we can change various parameters in here as well. How that affects characteristics of our engine. The point of this really was flexibility, tailoring things to the needs of our own lecturers. But let's get back to. Quickly show you this one as well. But the sort of time required to create these was quite extensive. So one of the other things we're looking to do is look for funding from various other sources to see if we can find somebody who can actually spend their full time producing these simulations. This one is kind of just a novel way of presenting videos to students, so kind of set up in the way of a symposium. The video will start. But then you can also create it like an escape room type thing where you have to answer a question to carry on and so on. So we have full flexibility over these kind of simulations, and basically we can create anything we like. Like I say. Oh. So it is resource intensive. It takes a lot of time to develop these simulations. We have applied for funding through the EdTech Creator Challenge, and we're currently going through one for Unity for Humanity. The idea really is over the next 2 years provide a dedicated programmer to produce these kind of virtual labs, not just in physics, but obviously chemistry, biology, and everything else as well in the engineering courses. The scope within Unity is huge. We can produce kind of anything we like out of that. And one of our other aims, our final aim really, was to produce an international community of sort of like-minded remote and online lab people that can support each other. And so to address that aim, we've produced, or we're producing a remote and online labs annual virtual symposium, which is going to be on Thursday, the 16th of December. And it's only an afternoon slot, but that kind of suits both sides of the Atlantic as well in terms of time zones and things like that. It is free. If anybody hasn't seen the link, it went out on the bulletin last week, so you can see the link on there. You can sign up to show interest. We've got a full packed set of speakers now, and they're sort of from everywhere, from GMIT, Letterkenny, IT Sligo, but also we have keynote speakers from Sheffield and Spain, and we've got other speakers from the University of Liverpool, Open University and some of the suppliers of online labs as well. So that should be a good fun event, and it's sort of just before we kind of break up for Christmas, so hopefully it'll be a little bit light-hearted and a bit of fun as well. Okay, so that's what's to come, and that's only, what, 3 weeks away tomorrow? And that's really a sort of a whistle-stop tour of what I've been doing since January. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask.
That's brilliant, Paul. I'll just turn off the recording now.